Black Panther is an extremely popular movie, and for good reason. The themes and characters are well written, the action is great, the performances are fantastic, and you can really feel the love and attention to detail that went into making this movie. Recently, I rewatched this movie for the first time in a while, and I couldn't help but notice how much detail went into things like costumes, the hair, the language, the technology, the weapons, the colors, the jewelry, the music, the graffiti. By this point in the MCU, we have been introduced to new places that aren't just New York. We've seen Asgard and a few of the other 9 realms, we've seen different planets like Xandar, Ego, and Sakaar, and we've even seen some different dimensions like the Dark Dimension. So how did the creators make this fictional place feel so fleshed out and lived in? In this video, I want to explore the thought process of how the filmmakers developed their idea of Afrofuturism for Black Panther. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you're well aware of what Wakanda is, but if not, Wakanda is a fictional African country in the Marvel universe that hides themselves from the rest of the world with their highly advanced technology they've developed due to being the only country to have access to vibranium. So where do you begin to start crafting this world? First, you need a visionary like Ryan Coogler, who was approached by Kevin Feige after the success of Creed back in 2015. Coogler agreed to direct, but only if he could work with collaborators that worked with him on his previous films, since he felt like Marvel uses the same people to shoot, edit, and compose their films, and he wanted this film to feel different. Rachel Morrison worked as cinematographer on Fruitvale Station. Hannah Bleacher as production designer and Ludwig Göransson as composer both worked on Fruitvale Station and Creed. Hannah Bleacher is the first female production designer on a Marvel film and became the first African American to be nominated and win the Academy Award for Best Production Designer for Black Panther. To prepare, Bleacher traveled to Cape Town, South Africa, then traveled with the rest of the crew to the African countryside where they would eventually end up getting shots like this.
A lot of it is Winterton, which is northern KwaZulu-Natal, up by the Sentinel Mountains and the Lesotho border is where that's where this is. That's where a lot of our plates were shot, but there's also plates shot in Zambia and Uganda.
Ludwig Göransson has composed and produced for a lot of projects. I already mentioned how he's worked with Coogler on his previous films, but he also composed music for The Mandalorian, Turning Red, Oppenheimer, Tenet, and dozens more. He's also produced nearly every Childish Gambino song. He prepared by living in Senegal for a month and worked with the musicians there to really craft the sound. Being a Swedish man, he found it necessary to do right by the music, and I think the end result is nothing less of iconic. Coogler stated that he was a fan of comics when he was younger, and production of this movie was influenced by the ongoing Black Panther series at the time, which was being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Joe Robert Cole also joined early on to co-write the script with Ryan Coogler. Cole is most known for writing on The People vs. O.J. Simpson that released in 2016, but he was already part of the Marvel Studios Writers Program, where he describes it as getting assigned a character, reading all of their comics, then writing your own story about that character with hopes of that story turning into a script. I think having a core group like this to center your film around is a really strong first step. The next step is crafting this world to feel futuristic, not alien. Living in a time where Africans and African Americans are being dehumanized as they're affirming their identities, it was crucial when crafting this world to root the film in real life cultures and build out from there. With the idea being, what would an uncolonized African country look like 20 to 30 years in the future?
And then the palace.
The palace, man.
We went around.
A lot of iterations, but I'm so happy with how we ended up.
I think it turned out fantastic. And the city, my favorite thing about the city, I think, well, lots of things, but the one thing I think that really was a turning point was when we were in South Africa and you were talking about we should put the Rondavel tops on the skyscrapers. And I think that's the moment where the city really started to have breath and life.
A large inspiration for Wakanda was the nation of Basotho. It's a country that has mostly avoided British colonization due to its terrain. All the blankets featured in the film are traditional Basotho blankets. Also, apologies in advance, I know I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of all these names. I know, I'm sorry. Different tribes make up Wakanda to feel more like a fleshed out country, each carefully designed to feel distinct from one another through the use of color. Ruth E. Carter worked as costume designer and made over 700 costumes for this movie while referencing multiple tribes, like the Maasi, Himba, Dogon, Basotho, Tuareg, Turkana, Xhosa, Zulu, Suri, and Dinka people. Green is used for the River Tribe based on the Suri people, blue for the Border Tribe, and purple for the Merchant Tribe, both based on the Tuareg people, and yellow used for the Mining Tribe based on the Himba people. According to the senior visual development illustrator, Anthony Francisco, the Dora Milaje's costume was influenced by not only the Maasi people, but samurais, ninjas, and the Ifwagu people of the Philippines, and the arm and neck bands were based on the southern Ndibale people. The cast spoke mostly in Xhosa, which is Bantu language commonly spoken in the southern regions of Africa, and one actor, John Connie, who played T'Chaka, speaks fluently. He actually taught Chadwick Boseman and the other cast members how to speak it. Vibranium was looked at by Coogler like the real-life resource of coltan, which is a mineral that is almost exclusive to the Congo. Technology is something that is a huge part of this movie, as Shuri is a character that represents innovation. From the holograms, use of beads for utility and medical purposes, to the black sand, it all feels really unique. Here's a clip of Ryan Coogler and Hannah Bleacher talking about the idea behind the sand technology.
I love this part, the sand tables.
Yeah, we were trying to find ways for the Wakanda technology to be tactile. We know a lot of things in African culture are tactile. They have multiple uses. I like to think about like the fufu dish that's in West Africa, how it's food, but it's also a utensil. You want everything to have multiple purposes and everything to be kind of contact activated.
This movie gets a lot of hate on the VFX, specifically in the third act, but there are actually a surprising amount of practical sets and locations used in this movie. Here's Hannah again talking about a few of the sets that were used.
This was done on, crazy enough, this was done on a set in Atlanta. Hannah had
We built it the size of a football field.
Yeah, Hannah turned the Atlanta set into the Sambisa forest.
Yeah. We brought in over 150,000 plants and trees for this set, and about 20 tons of dirt, red dirt.
Yeah, and Pedro, who's
fantastic
a brilliant greensman, man. You know, he actually had some of these plants giving off fruit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were flowering inside and
they were blooming.
It was intense, and Jeff Bauman and Rachel Morrison, our amazing cinematographer, kind of finished it off
and filled it out. Yeah, absolutely.
Amphitheater seating. You want to talk about building that?
Oh man, this was a giant build. It was on the back lot in Atlanta. It was about 120 feet wide and about from the ground up 40 feet tall, with about 150,000 gallons of water running through it. Of course, it was extended by VFX, and then this I love. This again was practical. Of course, there's added VFX, but we did this in the quarry in Atlanta. We covered everything with snow it was like 700 feet that we did on a road, and on their way to Jabari.
A question the filmmakers really wanted to explore was, how would people react to knowing of Wakanda's existence? And a lot of characters have different reactions. Nakia pushes T'Challa to use their resources to help people, while W'Kabi wants to use those resources in a different way. M'Baku hates vibranium and thinks Wakandans are better off without it. Agent Ross was in disbelief that a country this advanced even exists. And Killmonger was furious when he found out that this utopia had existed for thousands of years and never helped out anyone in need who wasn't Wakandan. Also, since espionage plays a big part in this movie, the idea of hiding in plain sight was utilized multiple times.
Again, hiding in plain sight, this idea of espionage, this idea that the Africans, can be everywhere, and this idea that you can't tell Wakandans apart from other people from the continent. We want to set that up.
For example, Wakanda itself is hidden by holograms. Killmonger's father was posing as an American, and Zuri did the same thing, but better. Wakandan weapons seem a little bit simple at first, but have been integrated with updated tech. T'Challa chooses the Silver Panther suit over the gold to not be seen. And when T'Challa, Nakia, and Okoye try to stop Claw's deal in Korea, the casino is in an alley behind a fish market. Even Killmonger as a character represents this idea. Everyone thinks he's American, but he's also Wakandan. I want to highlight a few of the topics talked about in this commentary Ryan Coogler and Hannah Bleacher did for this movie. I think their perspective on these things is really insightful and helped me appreciate the film even more.
You want to talk about where we shot that at, Hannah? Like, because I think it's an interesting story there. Across the street from the church where Martin Luther King was buried.
Martin Luther King is buried, right? And then his daughter.
Yeah, that first day we shot this scene.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, Martin Luther King's daughter came up to us and kind of like, shook everybody's hand and blessed the project. It was pretty intense.
It was super intense. It was fantastic. Yeah. What a moment.
And that was a big thing. And also, the place isn't real until you see somebody eat.
Yeah.
See somebody eat.
Says that in every movie, food. You'll notice the food. And that was a big, important part. So we got Bry, and we had somebody come in who understood how it's cooked, understood how to cook it, to prep all of our Bry cooking for the day. And it is being cooked while we're filming that day.
Yeah, and Bry is a South African term for barbecued meat.
Yeah. And then what was the coffee that we had?
We had yak butter. Yeah, we had yak butter tea.
Yeah, yak butter tea. Yeah.
The idea of like you can feel tradition in food. You know what I'm saying? And that's an African thing. We wanted it to feel real. You know what I'm saying? And we wanted it to feel lived in. So that people. Yeah. A big goal for us was like, man, if we can have people feel like they can go to Wakanda after this movie's over, you know what I'm saying? It feels that real.
Because we had been going around about, what is this casino? What is this whole, how do we do this? And we were in the fish market, and he says, what if they walk through the fish market in their, like, beautiful clothes and go into this really high-end...
And there was a suggestion from Nate, too.
From Nate,
another one of our... it's another one of our motifs, which is hiding in plain sight.
Yep.
Wakanda hides in plain sight. This casino hides in plain sight.
Right.
Expect the unexpected. You know what I mean? You don't expect to go out to an old lady who's selling fish and know that she has this, amazing casino in her back pocket.
Two-story casino back there. And as soon as y'all said that, I just ran with. I was like, that's it. That's it. Because we had been trying to crack the code for so long, and it just made so much sense. So it was just like dive in and just make it beautiful, because I knew it was going to get destroyed.
And this casino was mostly practical here.
Everything but the ceiling. Yeah.
Overall, I think this movie is a masterclass on building a realistic, lived-in, Afrofuturistic paradise. And the fact that it being a paradise is a point of controversy in the story of the film makes you think about Afrofuturism even more. But what do you think? Do you think this movie has a well-crafted aesthetic, or do you think there's room for improvement? What other movie aesthetics would you want me to analyze? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far, please give this video a like. It would go a long way for me and my channel. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.